Welcome to the Natural History Cupboard. Come on in.
And welcome back to the Natural History Cupboard podcast, the place where the weird and wonderful parts of the natural world come together. I'm your host, Gareth, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Aaron. Aaron, what have you been up to?
Absolutely nothing, because it's just been a mess of a week. Horrible week.
Yeah, we were supposed to go to Cardiff and get some bits for your van.
And do we're gonna go.
Then your van died.
We're gonna go up, get some bits for the van, and then
go to the museum.
Because we were gonna do a bit of filming for that place, a bit of content.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. So the van's not dead. I just don't want to drive it. I want the mechanic to look at it first, and I've got a good friend who I trust to have a look at it. So,
oh well.
But there's other things like boilers and stuff. Like you guys, luckily you don't have smell-o-vision. Luckily his sense of smell is pretty
terrible.
Useless. The last episode, we were sat here, and all I could think about is, crikey, it stinks in here of oil, because we had a boiler problem. That's now sorted too.
Oh,
this week has sucked.
Well, I've not done a giant amount, to be honest. I'll tell you what I did do, and this is something that's really got nothing to do with natural history in some ways. I cleaned the windows on my house.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
For the first time, I got a long...
You're right, there's not much natural history.
But at the same time, I was out in the garden, and I thought, okay, well, let's use the hose to, just top up a bit of the pond and everything. It wasn't down much, but just checking in closer. Like I said the other week, I was looking to see if there was any frog spawn or anything in there. No, there's still nothing in there. No, there's not really been a giant amount for me this week. It's been a pretty non-wildlife week in some ways.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, here's to a more exciting week moving forward.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, should we move from our non-news into the actual news?
It's the news!
Right, well, we're into this week's news. I believe I'm starting things off, and it's all fun and games with me. So I'm starting off from the BBC. Amazon forest felled to build road for climate summit, which I think perfectly sums up the state of the world at the moment. We're having a climate summit in South America, so let's build a new 4-lane highway cutting through tens of thousands of acres of protected Amazonian forest to have the COP30 climate summit in the Brazilian city of Belém. Although I have a feeling I could call it a different thing. There is honestly no words to sum up the fact that they want to build a new road to a climate summit by cutting down. Nothing more needs to be said, really. And whoever brought that up as an idea, I think, needs to be thrown off the nearest cliff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing.
It's the definition of stupidity.
The definition of not actually caring.
Yeah. And it's kind of a proof that COP is a cop out. Yeah.
I'm afraid that I don't have... My news article is also something that I just roll my eyes at a bit. The article comes to us from animals around the globe who this is the first time I've used. I'm going to say I'm probably not going to use them again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how they justified some of the stuff in this article. Anyway, there's also worth mentioning, Louisa Leary was kind enough to send this our way.
All right.
So once again, if you have any articles, send them in to us. We do read them out. Headline is Meet Babia, the vegetarian crocodile who guarded a temple with her life in Kerala. Now you can probably tell what bit I have a problem with. The recently deceased Babia, known for her vegetarian diet and gentle demeanour, had become a symbol of peaceful coexistence between humans and nature. She was believed to be 70 years of age at her passing and was revered by some as a messenger of their god and others as an incarnation of that deity itself. The article highlights Babia's diet as a sign of the animal's adaptability, but I think that the short lifespan of this individual, coupled with the apparently pacifist outlook on life are actually signs of poor health as a result of that diet. But well, there it is.
So this is a crocodile being kept on a vegetarian diet.
Vegetarian diet, yes.
Does that mean it was being only fed vegetarians?
No, it means it's being fed as well as vegetables. It's being fed rice as well.
There is no way on this planet that that crocodile was surviving in a healthy manner.
No, well, crocodiles, many species we believe can get into triple digits. Their lifespan. This was 70 years, which makes me think they probably
I think there was eating some chicken in there at some point.
Maybe, but I doubt they had it since birth. And I would have thought that again, I say this respectfully to the Hindu population, but you cannot enforce your beliefs onto an animal. I have a massive problem with people feeding their cats vegan diets. I have a massive problem with people feeding crocodiles vegetarian diets.
I mean, thankfully, that second one isn't a huge issue.
As big of a problem, though.
The amount of people you come across feeding their crocodiles salad. Good. So I'm going to keep the bad news train rolling right off a cliff as well. This is from Bird Guides, and it's the yet again sad news that America is facing just ecological devastation at the moment. Trump orders vast areas of old-growth forest to be felled. Donald Trump has issued an executive order to expand logging across 110 million hectares of national forests.
Whoa.
These are public lands as well, so they are owned by the public. It is their national parks being felled to create timber profit. Basically bypassing rules protecting endangered species, and this basically means the ecological significant forests of the US could be subject to large-scale deforestation, probably depletion of species, and just the effects will be felt for decades to come. So,
yikes. I'm going to use that as a springboard here because I made a promise at the start of last season that I was going to start doing positive news.
And I want to do positive news as well, but I kind of felt that those articles...
They are important, but I just want to say to our American listeners, how do I word this? Every week it is a struggle to not report on something that Trump is doing in his intention to massacre your environment over there. You guys need to do something about it now. Like the novelty is gone. The joke, the orange, the Oompa Loompa in charge is now no longer funny. Come on, guys. I'm not talking about like something.
Get your act together, honestly. Come on.
There must be. I don't understand American politics as well as I do over here, but there must be something you can do to get it, like appropriately and politically, like move him out of office.
Not for another 2 years, but I feel at the moment the midterms, the midterms is where things can change in the Senate and the House. But the biggest problem I feel, and it's because I've got this real doom fascination where I end up watching and reading and listening to so many different political things that I could just bore the heck out of everyone. Is that at the moment the Democrats, the only party of opposition, they're just going along with it. They're literally going along with it. Like somehow that will change what is going on. We'll send an email around. We'll do a funny TikTok video. That'll get them. This is not the time for that sort of vanilla approach. This is the time for, protest, for chanting, for basically making your voice heard and being that alternative for people to try and give them some sort of hope. But
well, there you go. You guys got to get them out of that midterm. I just don't understand. America is a country that is set up politically pretty much because it fears centralized government. It feared the fact that how we're run over here.
It didn't want to have a king, so we got a king.
Yeah. What is? Respectfully, I don't want to
kings anymore.
Really don't want to lose our American followers here. I don't know what's going on in your country. It's just
I do feel
crazy.
sorry for you.
Yeah.
I do.
Anyway, we'll move on. So this one comes to us from the Daily Echo. Titchfield, glossy ibis, scarce in UK, spotted. So Southampton appears to be the most recent host of unexpected and rare extant dinosaur species, as a glossy ibis has been exciting twitchers in Titchfield Haven over the weekend. The species is globally present and often spotted in South England and Wales.
Hey, we get them down Framington Key all the time.
Beautiful bird. But it has struggled to breed in the British Isles historically right up until 2022 when a pair did breed. So yeah, really good news. And if you are in Southampton, go out and
they're a really nice bird.
Stunning. The photos are really great. You'll never be able to appreciate it through a photo, but you can almost see the iridescent sheen.
They're a gorgeous bird, and it's one of the many reasons I love going down Framington Key. And if you're in, or near Barnstable or whatever, it's one of the best spots on the River Tour, I think, to appreciate the bird life around here. It's a huge estuary. Annoyingly, there was there's now multiple cases of bird flu up and down the area, but
unfortunately.
But yeah, that's just the times we live in at the moment. But yeah, it's a really stunning place to go.
It is.
So also bad news for you. I've just gone bad news this week. Sorry, what can I say? This is from the Otago Daily Times from New Zealand. One of the worst things I've ever seen or smelled or felt in my life. And this is
what's this?
This is the story that a Matarua dairy farmer has been fined 130,000 New Zealand dollars for contaminating a nearby stream, resulting in the death of 1,000 eels. Now, New Zealand eels are not like the eels that we might be used to. These are massive things, and they can live for easily, decades. Some of them can easily get into the hundreds, and they are huge fish. When I was in New Zealand, I remember going to this nice little just wildlife centre that had a huge fish tank in the middle, and it had these eels in it.
Wow.
And they were monsters. They were amazing looking things. But this dairy farmer has been basically polluting the low burn stream, which then runs into the Matarua River, resulting in the death of thousands of eels in February last year. Now, a court has heard that Bryson David Clark, 62, who jointly owns and runs a dairy farm in the area with his wife, and due to largely the overflow on the farm's effluent pond, has basically caused this massive loss of aquatic life. According to the Environment of Southland's summary, 2,612 dead fish were recovered, most of them being eels, but the council estimated 4,000 was the true number that had happened.
Right.
So it's not just here that we have issues with farmers basically allowing things to get into rivers, except that New Zealand's rivers are a bit more, full of species than our rivers in some ways. So, yeah, sad news, unfortunately. But at least he's been fined.
Yeah. Yeah. That is sad. Right. So my final article comes to us from BBC News. So it's actually a video article. So the headline is "Watch Cliff Collapse Caught on Camera." A headline with wonderful alliteration. Anyway, one beachgoer has caught on camera the spectacular and scary moment that more echoes of the past may have been released from the cliffs of the Jurassic Coast. One thing you'll have heard Gareth and I preach is not to get too close to the cliffs when fossil hunting, and the video here shows exactly why that is. Miss Ali Ferris of Charmouth Heritage Coast Centre recorded the cliff collapse from a safe distance on Stone Barrow Beach whilst out for a walk. The landslip, she said, was small, but effectively demonstrates why you wouldn't want to be underneath it.
Well, it'd be the last thing you ever did.
Yes. It's a very dangerous thing. It's very exciting because it can.
It's amazing when these things happen. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point. It does look amazing, but also there's a chance that new animals emerge from these landslides, new fossils. But dangerous. So don't go climbing the cliffs. We've said it before. Don't go climbing the cliffs fossil hunting.
Yeah, never go to the base of the cliff. And what I've seen so many times in summertime when you get all the tourists down there is just people going up to the very base of the cliff and just start hacking away with a hammer. You're not going to find it, and that's usually the cliffs that are just next to Lyme Regis. You will not find any fossils in those cliffs there, and all you're going to do is bring it down on yourself, and well, yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Imagine one good uh kind of a comparison is when you see kids digging in the side of a sand dune.
Oh God.
You have no idea how quickly these things can shift, so just don't do it. But with that said, that's the end of the headlines, and our main topic is with Gareth. So Gareth,
yeah.
Away.
So following on from my bad news, I'm going with the most infuriating. This is a tie in some ways for how infuriating this was for me between the Trump news, the building a road through the Amazon to cut some journey time off to a climate summit, is my main article, which is, well, you've probably heard or seen it. US influencer who snatched a baby wombat has thankfully left Australia. Now, the blood in me boiled when I saw this video earlier in the week, and you probably have seen it as well if you've been on any kind of social media, of this irritating woman essentially abducting a baby wombat, a joey of a wombat, a common wombat. Now, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily, there to just be picked up at the side of the road. And I've got to admit that part of me wanted the mother to be coming in from the side of that video and nailing her in the leg.
Yeah.
Because that would have been the last thing she'd have been doing for a good while. Wombats can chew through concrete, so a leg is not really much. But yes, this is the irritating fact that this American influencer decided that picking up a wombat and sort of swaying it as she walked like it was some sort of joke would somehow be funny, because it's all about the clicks. It's all about the, and to this point, she's also apparently had loads of death threats and everything. And to be honest, death threats are never a good thing to be sending to people, but I can completely understand the outrage that people have, especially in Australia as well. Australia is one of those countries that is fiercely proud of their wildlife in many ways. Now, I would say at the same time that they've not done much to protect their wildlife as much as they could. Hence why there's a lot of species of Australian wildlife that are heavily threatened. But if you speak to most people in Australia, their attitudes towards certainly cute, fuzzier animals like wombats and koalas and things is leave it alone. Don't touch it. But that being said, I think it's one of these cases where people are far too insistent on trying to get videos of themselves doing stupid things or putting themselves in danger or putting somebody else in danger for the purpose of views, clicks, likes, whatever.
But with no thought for the animal.
No. And that's usually the biggest thing. And I think you could probably agree. I mean, there's not much more I could really say about this particular video. She was an idiot. Thankfully, she's left Australia because I think she should have been, well, if not hunted down and stuck on a plane and kicked out of the country. I think she realized the moment she posted that, the writing was on the wall and she had limited time to get out of the country. What I would like to know is what on earth happened to the bloke who was filming it, because he also should have been kicked out of the country as well.
I assume that he was with her and he went off of it.
I'd assume so, but you don't really, it doesn't really say who this person is who's filming it. But he also found it hilarious, basically saying, "Oh, look how distressed the mother is," which is not a good thing. It's the equivalent of just going to your local play park, grabbing a child and having someone film it. Go, look how distressed the mother is. I've got their child.
Some people will hear that and either laugh like oh, it's a bit of an over exaggeration, or they'll be offended that you're comparing a wombat to a child. But it's not. It's exactly the same. You basically you essentially
causing stress.
Snapped it and caused extreme stress to the mum. and the baby.
Yeah.
And for some likes on Facebook.
There's a good chance that mother may have either disappeared afterwards, and left the baby.
Yeah.
And then it's just left, or somebody's then got to try and rear it up, and they'll have taken it, to a wildlife charity. But that would be a totally unnecessary need to do that. Or the animal gets injured in the process and can't survive as well in the wild. But I think certainly from both of our backgrounds in the zoo world, where you'd quite often have people seeing the animals as nothing more than just a prop, a thing that's there, not a living creature, an entity, and essentially just the amount of times you'd have people jumping over barriers because they want to get closer. They want to get that photo of them with the tiger behind them, with the jumping over the barrier so they can get a photo of the baby Joey of the wallaby, up a lot closer. And they, will stand in the way of other animals to basically, especially in walk-through enclosures as well.
Yeah.
So I think it speaks to a bigger issue that people have of just the only way that people can live is just by, we need to get a photo. I need to get a photo of it. I need to pester the animal. It goes to those same people who stand around turtles on beaches, when the turtles are up basically trying to lay their eggs and people are hoarding around it and the animal can't get back to the sea.
Or one that really drives me insane is when people find a beach dolphin, beach shark, or porpoise, and they pick it up. And rather than put it in the sea again, they pick it up and take their Facebook photos.
Yeah.
Do you remember there was a shark or a dolphin in somewhere in Asia?
A baby dolphin.
They literally had a queue of people just passing it to get their Facebook photo. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I bet if you went and asked 90% of those people, they wouldn't have a clue what it was.
Nope.
What it does, how it lives, anything about the animal's life that makes it interesting, that they could then actually, the knowledge of that animal, I think, is far more interesting and far more fascinating, and you'll ultimately get far more people who would be willing to listen and want to learn from something. If you could tell someone that fact about the animal, and I'm not just saying just a random fact, but something that allows you to connect to it and go, I picked this dolphin up and I put it back in the water, and I know that it's going to echolocate to find its the rest of its pod and everything. People would be far more impressed, I think, in that story than going, I stood on a beach for 20 minutes whilst all these other people stood around and then passed me a dolphin that weirdly just looked like it was dying. But, I've got this filter on it, so it makes it look like it's all a cute anime character.
Then everyone's so outraged and so like hate driven when a grandma loses her hand because she's wading in the shallows and reached out to take a photo of a shark. Like, a little bit of respect, please. But
people don't understand that animals can bite. The same thing in Australia as well. You had a lot of people. There's an area where saltwater crocodiles congregate, and it's a little beach, and there's a little narrow track that you can drive over to get. It's just a road basically, and it's become so much of a tourist thing of standing there to watch these crocodiles. Which I've got to admit, I would love to go there and see saltwater crocodiles that close. But you've got people going down onto the bank by the river, and the local sort of authorities have put in fences and everything to make sure that people stay up. But people are still going down and playing with their kids right on the water's edge. Those crocodiles could very easily just turn around and have a child. And that what would happen is the crocodile would be blamed.
The child dies and the crocodile dies, and it's not fair on either of them.
Exactly. The level of respect for nature when it comes to people's clicks, likes, stupid photos of things is infuriating.
Can I also just jump off on something, because I can almost hear this argument coming at some point? Picking up, ripping an animal away from its mum, poking and prodding and showing it like that to get TikTok likes and stuff like that is vastly different to what Steve Irwin was doing. Now, I don't agree 100% with what Steve Irwin did, but the important part of what Steve Irwin did is he got people connected with nature and excited about nature. I always say that Steve Irwin is the gateway drug that gets you hooked on David Attenborough.
I mean, for me, I went straight for the hard stuff. I went straight to Attenborough.
I was straight to Attenborough too, but that's because he was around whilst I was little. But I can imagine for someone slightly younger than me that can't get into, because David Attenborough has that I mean, it's a very soothing voice, but it's very it's very serious, and it's very one pace. Well, it's not one pace, that's unfair, but you know what I mean? It's very scientifically driven, whereas Steve Irwin was excitement driven. I can see how someone who was younger than me, slightly younger than me, could see Steve Irwin and that would be their explosion of interest into the natural world. And it's very different to what these idiots are doing nowadays, where it's not about the animal, it's about how good they look.
I suppose it speaks to the same thing. Like I say, I make my final point, I suppose, on this is people like that Coyote Peterson.
Yeah.
Where he's the one who gets himself bitten and stung and everything. Wonderful. You're an idiot. You've managed to get yourself stung. You are showing how painful something is. Cool. It's like going, I wonder what will happen if I put my hand in this wood chipper. I want to know what will happen.
Or having a piece of wood. Here is a new galvanized metal down nail, and down the other end is a
rusty,
like a 20-year-old rusty one that's still got the dirt on from being dug out of the farmland, and then you've got every grain in between. And what you're going to do is every day step on a different one just to see which one causes the worst infection. Like, why do we need to see that?
Exactly.
Like we know
but it's what will get people.
The scientific part, the interesting part of venoms and poisons, is the chemical makeup of it and what those things do to the body. Not, I'm going to see if I can survive and how painful it is. Before we close off on this, I do want to say that this influencer, has released a statement since then. A 2-minute long video, apparently, is what I'm not going to watch it. But I read the excerpt of it, and it was essentially, I'm sorry for what I did, but the Australian government are calling for my head, whilst at the same time allowing all these animals and all these plants to be killed off in their droves. And look at what farmers are doing in Australia, and it's just such.
She was there.
Don't look at me. Look at all these people. Yeah, it's just such a weird statement. If you are actually remorseful, and I'm going to come on to why I don't think she's actually remorseful. If you're actually remorseful, you would say, you know what? I'm an idiot. I made a mistake. It was very ill-advised. It was not the right thing to do. This is why. And I've learnt my lesson and I'm sorry. And then you leave it at that. But she did that. And the reason why she did that, the reason why she had to defend herself in an aggressive way, and the reason why...
Because it'll get controversy, it'll get likes, it'll get clicks.
More than that, she's a hunter. She's an actual hunter, so she doesn't really care anyway. She's just trying to don't look at me, look at them. Like, she never had respect for that animal in the first place, and she doesn't have it now. And if somehow, some way, our words get to her, my message to her is quite simply this: bite me.
Yeah. And I wish the wombat had, if not you.
Me.
Yeah. Anyway, before we get far too much into a rant, we'll move into the creature feature, I think.
It's the creature feature.
Right, well, we're into this week's creature feature. Aaron, what are we looking at?
So we're going to tell a little bit of a story with this one.
Yeah.
So in the wintry darkness of a frigid January night, there is a stillness in the air. No snowflakes fall. The wind has ceased, and it sounded very picturesque. And life for most animals has slowed to a sleepy stop. It's very much the peak hibernation time for many species across the colder parts of the Northern Hemisphere. But in the underworld, a different story is being told. Here in a rock fissure, a female brown bear has made her den using mosses and grasses as a bed on the floor. She then crawled inside and shut her eyes, and she didn't move again until now. And that's not because she can hear me talking creepily.
Are we going to get revenant? I don't want that.
So January is the beginning of up to 2 months of brown bear births, and this mother is one of the earliest to hear a newborn litter. She's asleep when they're born, but she prepared their first meals months ahead of time. She put on around, well, more than about a kilogram of body weight per day throughout a very successful kind of bulking up period over the warmer months of the year, consuming up to 20,000 calories per day to achieve this. It's a good thing too. This not only gives her the reserves necessary to stay healthy through this period of inactivity, but also aids in the production of nutritious, fat-filled milk for her newborn twins. Again, luck is on her side. Twins is kind of towards the lower end of the average kind of litter sizes. And whilst uncommon, a large older female, such as our fluffy friend here, could have up to 6 cubs, which would, needless to say, be a struggle to feed, let alone keep safe. The twins are born bald, blind, toothless, and barely larger than like a 30 centimeter ruler weighing 350 grams. A heavy ruler, but
guinea pig size.
Guinea pig size, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not alone for long though, because the brown bear approach to hibernations isn't to shut down over winter, but rather to almost lazily not do much.
That's a lifestyle I aspire to.
Especially in this country, I think hibernation should be adopted, or at least the bear approach to hibernation should be adopted. I mean, true, she won't eat or drink, and no, she'll barely even urinate, but she does regularly wake up, contrary to popular belief. Now, before we move too far away from the pregnancy itself, it is a really interesting kind of gestation setup that brown bears employ. Firstly, breeding happens about 8 months before the birthing takes place. Can be up to 9 months. But the bears aren't truly pregnant that entire 8 to 9 months. Instead, the fertilized egg is isolated and remains dormant until hibernation sets in, at which point an 8-week gestation takes place, resulting in hopefully a healthy litter of cubs. Now, they're not the only bears that can, I forget the technical term for this. You might be able to help me.
Delayed implantation.
Delayed implantation. They're not the only bears that can do this. Another one, and it's one that we've covered, of course, is the panda bear.
Wow.
So delayed implantation is a bear thing.
It's in lots of different mammals.
In lots of different mammals, yeah.
Koalas, kangaroos, they can both do it.
Yeah.
Koala, not a bear.
Koala is not a bear, no. Neither, for that matter, is a kangaroo, but
very much not. Those jumpy bears.
Yeah.
I know where those gummy bears.
Gummy bears. Jumpy bears, gummy bears, same thing. Anyway, should an expectant mother not have put on the appropriate weight, her body will reabsorb those fetuses, ending the pregnancy there. So yeah, very kind of interesting setup. It's really quite a no-nonsense evolutionary approach to ensuring the cubs have the easiest, almost cheat code like start to life. Anyway, back in the den, noise and activity quickly become the order of the day as these cubs, they develop fast and very soon are resembling tiny little versions of their mum. Now, her milk, as I said, is very rich in fat, and by 4 months of age, they increase size to over 15 kilograms in weight. So it's quite an exponential kind of expansion in mass.
Pretty quick, yeah.
They'll continue to nurse on their mobile fat reserve, even after moving on to solids, with most individuals actually still accepting mother's milk through the juvenile and subadult stages up to the age of 3 or even 4 years. It is at the end of those 4 years, however, that the first big lifestyle change occurs, because adult females breed once every 4 years. And so, obviously, with gestations of up to 9 months and litters averaging about 3 cubs, this is actually the lowest reproductive rate of any North American land mammal. Now, they don't just come from North America. We'll get onto that in a bit. But just for perspective, it's the lowest reproductive rate of any North American land mammal. But as they get to 4 years old, Mum will be ready to breed again, and she'll encourage the cubs to find their own way moving forward. Her daughters, obviously speaking generally, not about our specific friend here, daughters will be already able to breed by the time they leave mum, whilst sons, the young males, will need to wait a further year to reach adult maturity. At this point, it's May, and a 3-month breeding period has begun. And to say that brown bears are promiscuous is to almost not word it strongly enough. Males will mate with up to 2 females in just as many weeks. Females, on the other hand, can potentially mate with as many as 2 partners in a day in some cases.
Right.
So very promiscuous animals. This promiscuity from both sexes means that a third of all litters that have been studied are litters sired by multiple fathers. So in many cases, you're looking
ostrich approach.
The ostrich approach, yes. You're basically looking at half siblings instead of full siblings. Now, funnily enough, our young adult males have a better chance of passing on their genes than the larger elder males do. And that's because those elder males are far too busy challenging each other. So the younger males can just basically mate freely. However, there is kind of a counter to that, because by the time the elder males get their act together and actually do mate, they actually spend more time and pay more attention to olfactory clues. And so they might mate later, but they often get the best
timing right.
The timing's perfect, yeah. So other than congregating during mating, either to partner up or to challenge each other, brown bears are very much solitary creatures. Again, not including the mother and cub combinations either. They can be hyper-aggressive. Obviously, this is the case for large elder males, but of particular interest is the unmatched fury of a mother bear, no matter the age.
Yeah.
They are incredibly... well, let's say you wouldn't want to come across it. And
I think the best way to demonstrate it is pause this now, go and watch The Revenant, particularly that scene, the scene, because, well, that's a female brown bear and her cubs. So, I mean, nothing really portrays that, what you would face better than that particular scene.
That is a scene.
Oh, yeah.
That's very much a scene. Yeah. Welcome back if you did just do that.
It's a really good film.
We hope we haven't traumatized you. And perhaps if you have kids, you should have.
Yeah, maybe don't.
You should have been watching this video with us so that you knew not to flick over. But there we go, too late now. If they have a litter to protect, these females rarely lose when faced with males, even larger males. That's something that not all predators can boast. Although it is true that brown bears are one of those predators that do practice infanticide. But yeah, very rarely do they successfully do it, because the mothers they are the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with one.
Not at all. Yeah. All that being said, though, yes, they are solitary. Yes, they can be aggressive. But do they hold territories? It's a question for you.
I want to say yes, but I'm now thinking no.
No, I kind of led you into it, and your second guess is.
To be honest, I'd never honestly thought about it that deeply, but my thought would have been, yes, they hold a territory.
They've got more of a kind of cheetah approach to territories, to be honest. So yeah, the answer, which could be potentially surprising to some, is no. Brown bears enjoy vast home ranges spanning about 24 kilometers squared, where the resources are abundant, or up to 8,171 kilometers squared, where resources are spread much thinner. So, I mean, that's a huge range in home range kind of sizes, but almost 8,200 kilometers squared is that's a large range. To start with, the geographical distribution of the species, whilst we're talking about like where they live, the geographical distribution of the species is extensive, shall we say. It stretches right across an impressive list of countries and states. Check this out. So, in alphabetical order.
Could you do it like the Animaniacs to music?
No,
No, they did the Nations of the World song. You never heard that?
I would have, but I can't think.
I will have to put it on for you later.
I might be able to do it to the rhythm of the periodic table song. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Brilliant song. Brilliant song. That I've just betrayed how nerdy I am. Anyway, the states and the countries that you can find these guys in. You got Afghanistan, Alaska, Albania, Alberta, Andorra, Bosnia, British Columbia, Bulgaria, China, Croatia, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Idaho, India. Where did I get to? Iran, Italy, Japan, Kyrgyzstan, Macedonia, Montana, Montenegro, North Korea, the Northwest Territories, Norway, Pakistan, Poland, Romania, Russia, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland. It's Ventura.
Yeah.
Turkey, Ukraine, Washington, Wyoming, and Yukon. So from this list, you can probably guess that the brown bear enjoys more diversity of habitat than any other living bear species. These kind of range countries include elevations from sea level right the way up to 5,000 meters. Semi-open country, mountain ranges, temperate forests of all known varieties. So a massive distribution complemented by a plethora of habitat choices to exploit. And that plethora of habitat means a plethora, a bounty, if you will, of resources and opportunities. So ultimately, there's not much reason for the 200,000 living brown bears to fight. There seems to be pretty much plenty to go around for the most part. In many cases, young adults have even been known to tolerate competitor species like wolves, even on rare occasions sharing the spoils of a kill. And there have been stories, some really interesting stories about ravens, which wouldn't be competitors, but ravens and wolves and bears I don't want to say teaming up for several reasons. Like the connotation of teaming up makes it sound a bit more deliberate than it is. But they've certainly been shown to help each other access food and call each other to kills. Because obviously each species can gain access to a different bit. But very interesting nonetheless. But don't be fooled into thinking that brown bears are easygoing. As I said, they are.
I don't think I've ever thought of them as easygoing.
No, but we're painting a picture of an animal that quite happily just tucks into some dinner and a spot of tea with a wolf. And I think I mentioned the ravens just now as well. They're not that. They're not super tolerant, okay? They'll regularly face off cougars, wolves, coyotes, and smaller predatory species. They'll even chase away cousins such as black bears, black bear species, because the black bears in two parts of the Northern Hemisphere. And quite surprisingly, even polar bears seem to come off worse in their interactions with brown bears. So we're kind of left to wonder, do brown bears have a natural predator?
Is it going to be humans?
Is it going to be humans? The answer is yes, but humans do. We come on to humans in a bit. Natural predator is in an animal that actually hunts them actively.
Tigers?
Yeah, there you go. Bears as a family take up 2.1% of a certain predator's annual diet. And of that 2.1%, 1.4% is indeed brown bears. And this is the diet of the Amur tiger, the largest cat on the planet, chiefest and greatest predator walking this planet today. They will regularly stop bears in their tracks, chase them off of territories and resources, and indeed end the bear's subscription to life whenever they see fit. But then there isn't much an adult Amur tiger can really not handle. But Amur tigers aren't the only threat to brown bear longevity. And as Gareth rightly mentioned, humans play their usual role too.
Yeah, we're very good at that,
Yeah, we're
basically ending things.
Yeah, we're pretty awful at that. I've seen some pretty horrific kind of infographics lately of where like wolf populations across Britain and Europe in like 1900 and where they are now, and beavers in 1900 and where they are now, and brown bears in 1900, because I've been doing brown bears. I saw similar things when I was doing Eurasian elk as well, like animals that should be native where we are no longer native, and just how much it's dropped. In fact, such is the aversion to humans that bears take that the presence of the hairless apes directly affects the activity patterns of brown bears. Populations further from humans are crepuscular, meaning that they're active during dawn and dusk. This seems to be the natural kind of default for brown bear activity. But populations that are closer to humans operate only at night, becoming what we call nocturnal. And then there's the rebellious yearlings that you shouldn't take any notice of because they, for some reason, appear to be very much diurnal as a group. Possibly, though, this is to avoid competition with their kind of bigger peers.
No, they're just going, no, I don't want to get a bear.
Or it's just teenage rebellion, yeah. It's not fair.
I'm going to stay up early.
I remember when my mum used to like take the mick out of me.
Isn't it?
It's not fair, because I was one of those teenagers.
Were you also raiding the neighbours' bins? And
I was not raiding the neighbours' bins. I probably raiding the biscuit tin though. So yeah, with humans, obviously the modus operandi when it comes to bear persecution is, of course, hunting. But there seems to be a regional divide in motivation, and again, this might actually be more obvious than I originally thought when I was writing this down. I think it's pretty widely known, this divide. You have the Native Americans who hunted them for survival. So you're talking about meat, pelts, but it wasn't just that, to be fair. There was also adornments and talismans and stuff like that. But then the Europeans, being how we are, we hunted them for our jollies. I refuse to accept hunting as a sport, and if you don't like it, bite me. The fact is, it's not a sport, and yeah, that's the difference between the Europeans and the Native Americans hunting them. Of course, the settler Americans followed in the European tradition because they are originally European, basically bathing in blood for fun. So not much improvement on the countries that they were trying to be free of. Taking it a step further, though, Europeans placed a species-wide bounty on the Eurasian brown bear, a project that would see the European populations crash until the early 1900s when protections were put in place. However, these protections are ridiculously weak, so even today, people still participate in this misery. But our interactions with brown bears weren't and aren't always the misery that I'm describing right now. And I thought we'd end on a bit of a more positive note. They were once revered, and in some places still are revered. The Ainu, the ancient Greek, the Chinese, the Romans, I hope I'm going to pronounce these correctly, by the way, the Dinar and the Haida, all have myths and sacred stories awarding the brown bear significant position. In fact, in some cases, particularly I think in the Haida people, brown bears are I think I'm using this word correctly, the progenitor of their race. Okay. So a human female married or bonded or otherwise mated with a male brown bear, and that's where the Haidu people came from, and they explain that that's why their people have been able to thrive pretty much untroubled in bear country, which I think is a really cool kind of creation myth there. But also you find that like what a lot of people call the plough today, Ursa Major, I still call the big bear. There's also an accompanying one, the Ursa Minor, which is the little bear. Do you know the story behind that, the ancient Greek story?
No, but they've got really long tails for bears.
Yeah, for some reason they do have long tails for bears. Anyway, the story behind that is that I believe, I can't remember which character it was because I'm a little bit rusty on it, but he was out hunting one day and he accidentally stumbled upon Artemis. Not you, the goddess of the wildlife. There's my cat is over there. The goddess of wildlife, and he saw her bathing with her kind of her what's the word, retinue, her groupies.
Groupies.
Well,
I know when I go bathing, I take my groupies. That's the soap.
I can't remember what they referred to, but basically the women that kind of followed her, demi-goddesses or immortals.
Groupies, I think, works.
Immortal groupies. And as punishment for looking on her, it was accidental, but as punishment for looking upon her while she was bathing, she turned him into a bear, and he ended up being hunted.
A bit extreme, but fair enough.
And died. And his mother was heartbroken. So I believe it was Zeus agreed to put him in the stars as a constellation.
So he got a constellation prize.
Yeah, but that's a good one. That one should be the one at the end.
Too late now.
Where was I? Oh, he becomes a constellation. She doesn't want him to be alone, so Zeus makes her the constellation Ursa Major, and something about how the stars move through the sky. Ursa Minor and Ursa Major are always in the sky together. One will never dip below the horizon without the other, so that mum and son can always see each other. Quite a cute story. Other than these myths, which I think are, as I say, I think myths are fascinating.
I tell you what, the Greek gods have got a real thing about like punishing people for just existing. Really,
yeah.
The one of Aranya,
that's the one I was thinking of.
She beats her in a contest that she challenges her to. I'm turning you into a spider.
To be fair, she was very arrogant. And this is another question.
You've challenged someone to a contest and they're better at it than you. You don't throw your toys out the pram and turn them into a spider.
I'll cover this really quickly because otherwise it's going to be a really random kind of tangent and people won't know. So Ariadne, I think was her name. She was a weaver in ancient Greece, and she bragged non-stop that she was better than all the gods and goddesses at weaving. Of course, Athena, goddess of war and strategy, hold my pint because I'm also the goddess of weaving. So she goes down and because Arachne, that's her name. She challenges Athena, and Athena says, "I accept your challenge. If you lose, you are never allowed to weave again." Of course, she loses because Athena is the goddess of weavers. But Athena takes pity on her and says, "Well, if you want to keep weaving, then you can be a spider and weave forever."
That's like the worst moral of the story. Lose and then just lose again.
Apollo is another one who does things like that. But now we're going way off tangent. Apart from the myths, which, as I say, I absolutely adore. Modern day, you can still find brown bears being revered in many kind of forms of heraldry right across the northern hemisphere, so in the US and Eurasia. The species is regularly featured on flags, coats of arms, and as a national animal or even state animals. So yeah. Now, there was one thing I wanted to end on, which is about what to do if you're attacked by a bear.
I believe the options are curl up and die or lay out and die.
So I've tried to find this on the internet. So this, as a disclaimer, is in no way, shape, or form advice for how to tackle a bear. In fact, don't tackle a bear. It's how to approach a bear.
Don't approach it.
Yeah. Bear etiquette, bear meeting, bear interaction etiquette. Okay, so there are some sources online say you should lie down and play dead with your, I believe, with your stomach to the ground. I think it's supposed to be.
You're trying to keep your vital organs as best as in one place.
Others say to back down, back away, and I believe that I believe it's probably situational, based on how close you are and what the bear is doing. So yeah, this is not meant as advice. It's just that I found a poem that is really funny. In my opinion, it's really funny. So it details in quite kind of shorthand how to deal with bear encounters. Again, this is not advice.
Me dad is flashing up on the.
This is not advice. It's just comical. For the poem I found reads: if it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down, which could be changed to back down. So I'll start again. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down or back down. If it's white, say goodnight. Because you've got no chance of a opponent.
I mean, yeah, because you're totally going to win in a fight with a black bear as well.
Well, unless your name is oh goodness, I've forgotten his name now. Really loud bloke.
Brian Blessed.
Brian Blessed. Who
yes.
punched the polar bear in the face when it poked its head in the tent.
Which, yeah, I mean, it probably went, oh my God, I just got punched by Brian Blessed.
Yeah. Just imagine him following as he does it.
But even still, just don't get that close to a bear.
Don't get that close to a bear. And I think bears is another brown bears is another one I'm going to have to revisit because
because you've not even covered where a teddy bear comes from.
Yeah, I've not covered teddy bears. I've not covered different subspecies. This has been very generalist.
Syrian brown bear,
Eurasian, Syrian, the Kodiaks, the grizzlies. Only one subspecies is known as a grizzly, even though colloquially the laymen will call any, especially Americans, will call any brown bear a grizzly bear. But it's actually so the Eurasian brown bear is Ursus arctus arctus.
Mm-hmm.
The one that you would call a grizzly bear is Ursus arctus horribilis, which is a name that's
horrible bear of the north. Is it no? But yeah,
horrible bear. Ursus arctus is bear.
Arctus being bear.
Yes, Ursus arctus is bear. So it's the most bear. The barest bear that you could. Nothing can be more bear than the Eurasian brown bear. Which is funny actually, because I mean that's the nominal subspecies. That's the
bear.
The bear. The bear. Yeah, so it's a lot of bears in that sentence. Yeah, so it shares that name with that part of its scientific name with Triceratops.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. What am I saying? Because it's Triceratops horridus, not horribilis.
Ah.
Either way, very mean naming these two species. That Triceratops are lovely, and brown bears are patient, gentle souls. Again, don't take what I said as advice there. I really mean that. But I will cover that safety in the next one, I think, in the next time I get to do brown bears. Because what a fantastic species.
Definitely.
I was saying to you before recording that they're underrated. They're sold off as like the vanilla, the boring. Everyone's seen a brown bear. There's brown bears everywhere. I think they're awesome.
I think they're really cool.
I mean, I know I like polar bears more.
Oh no, I like these more than polar bears.
But polar bears come from the snowy regions, so that gives them a little bit of an edge. Also, you mentioned teddy bears. Since I was born, I think, since I was born, I had a teddy bear that's a polar bear. Called Butterball.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, actually, it has it on the label. But yeah, no, he's a polar bear. So yeah, I think that's probably why I like polar bears so much. But yeah, brown bears are awesome.
Definitely.
Bing! You've got mail. Ooh, it's an email.
Right, well, we're into our emails for this week. You may have noticed we've been joined on the couch for the first time by Artemis, Erin's cat. So just coming here to quality control, as all cats do.
Fact check.
Yes, that and keeping your lap warm. So last week's question was who should go through, Dinocyrus or Thylacosmilus, to our semi-finals. Unfortunately, we've had a tie. So we've had to figure this out in another way to basically break the tie. So here now is the video of how we've broken the tie.
So Artemis has very kindly volunteered to be part of our question of the week. She's going to break a tie between Thylacosmilus and Dinocyrus. So we're representing these animals with these lovely natural history covered coasters that have been burnt onto some wooden slices by my partner Atta. The tiger will be representing Phyllocus smilus, and the tuatara will be representing Dinocyrus. So let's see which one she goes for. Artemis. She went for my hand again. This is take two. This was. Which one's more interesting to you, Artemis? She's bang smack in the middle. I think it might be a tie. Just sniff one. Right, she stood over Tuatara. It's a win for Dinocyrus, which makes Gareth very happy.
Well, there you go. That settles it. And this week's question, for our final one that will set up the last four, will be narwhal versus pine marten. So,
no,
it gets painful now, Aaron.
that is painful.
So who are you going for?
Goodness gracious. I'm going narwhal.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
You just don't get the appeal of narwhals.
They're the Jedi of the sea.
And not to just basically fill in the gap of who's going to be the controversial one. I'm going to go for pine martens because I find them more interesting
I
than
don't
narwhals.
think there's a controversial option here. Any which way you choose is a good choice.
Anyway, let's have your say as to which one joins the final four, and then, well, basically it's down to it's getting serious now. Who's gonna be winning out of those four? Place your bets. You can post that on our Facebook page, where that post will be going up, or on our YouTube comments page underneath this video. So yeah, feel free to do that. But that brings us into some of our comments. What have we got this week, Aaron?
So we've got 2 comments on the YouTube channel. The first one comes into us from Renington, who says, the horrible hand of the Canadian goose is winning it for me, somehow balancing the fear and oddness of the animal. Now he's, of course, I should say. So they're, of course, referring to the colour palette of the Canadian goose that was used for the
Dinocyrus.
Yeah. So thank you for that comment, Renington. Rose Lee 9961 says, I'm on team horrible hand with Gareth.
Oh my god, people are like siding with me. This is lovely.
I love the Canada Goose inspired colouring and patterning. They also continue with also with the question posed at the end from Big Pumba. I think that's what the person was calling themselves. You're correct. I've also thought about what would happen if our sister species were around with us to modern times, with a dear friend of mine, which I've created the idea of a book talking about this. Spoiler to the book. Homo neanderthalensis, Homo sapiens, and Homo floresiensis have hybridized to the point of creating a new species, Homo ulitimentalis, which kind of reminds me of... do you know in the X-Men they're called Homo Superior or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. The declaration of this new species causes chaos, yada yada. I'm not saying that is actually typed.
Yeah.
Not meaning to sound rude, that is actually typed. So yeah, that's my silly book idea. There are no silly book ideas. Just start writing it is what you got to do. Also relating to another question posed by Big Pumba, my friends and family went to the zoo for my 21st birthday, and when we were near the orangutan habitat, a couple with their kid was also nearby, in view of the orangutans as well, and the father kept calling them Pygmy Bigfoot. It was definitely a laughable and eye-roll moment. Yeah, sounds like it.
Oh dear.
Do you know what? I'd love to have a conversation with a Neanderthal or
I thought you were going to say, I'd love to have a conversation with someone who can't tell the difference between Bigfoot and an orangutan.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all our YouTube comments. The rest of our interactions are emails.
Right. Well, our email address, if you are wondering and wanting to send us any or all communications our way, whether it's just to say hello, whether you want to send us an interesting article for the news, or whether you want to answer any of the questions, is thenathistorykcupboard@gmail.com. What have we got, Aaron?
So this one comes to us from our one of our Patreon supporters, Jen Greenhall, who says, "Hello, lovelies. I am marking exam papers for an awarding organisation, and there is always a question on stereotypies, their management, prevention in domestic animals, horses in this case. The question refers to a lack of stimuli leading to the animal more likely to develop stereotypies. Many state that they are caused by boredom, which isn't really accurate. So it got me thinking about the difference between stimuli and enrichment in this context. If an animal is in an enclosure that is well designed, then it will have enrichment to enable it to perform natural behavior. Is this stimuli if it is a food-based activity, for example? Should we qualify stimuli in terms of positive and negative? If an animal is housed in an area where the stimuli is causing a negative reaction, possibly leading to stereotypies, then it's negative. So should we add enrichment to its enclosure? Obviously, moving the animal would be the answer. Just a thought as I wonder about candidates' understanding of these terms. Loving your work as always, Jen. So thank you very much for that.
I feel like we've been asked the exam question now.
We have been. Thank you for that lovely email.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like they always say all publicity is good publicity. So I think all negative and positive stimuli are obviously all stimuli, and to a certain extent, like negative stimuli can also be enriching to an animal as well.
Yes.
So a change in the weather can be positive, but it could also be negative. But it can also lead to an interesting enrichment. So snow, for instance, for an animal that may never normally see snow, like chimps, can be really enriching for a brief period of time, as long as they've got the ability to come out of that environment and into a suitable environment for them. So I would say that, yeah, I think enrichment and things like that will obviously ward. So a negative, So I would say that a negative interaction is still enrichment to an extent, and will stave off stereotypy, because it will be something that would keep their mind ticking over, even though it's not necessarily what you would consider a positive stimuli. Yeah, not saying that they should just be negative, but I think we always focus on the positive as opposed to the negative.
If I could just jump off on singing the praises of negative stimuli, which seems really strange. It was really counterintuitive. But having my background in carnivores, I think there's a lot of positivity to be gained from utilizing in a controlled manner negative predatory stimuli.
Yeah.
For example, as much as I don't like meerkats in captivity, and you could quite easily replace them with any mongoose and be just as happy and have just as happy customers. Why we need common as muck meerkats in every zoo is beyond me. One thing that I've seen done, which I think is really cool, is sending over so you have a zip line that carries a bird model or a bird cutout that can shadow as it goes across meerkat enclosure. Sending the meerkats scarpering.
Yeah.
Also, you can play audio for that if you want to. Yeah, but sending the meerkats scarpering because they think it's a predator, but it's healthy. It's healthy for them. It's allowing them to express natural behaviors. Similarly,
makes the route more coherent in some ways as well.
Similarly, prey species. One awesome practice that that I'm aware of is up at the Highlands Wildlife Park, where their snow leopard enclosure has a tunnel through to is it the markhor or is it another
markhor, where what they'd eat in the wild?
Yeah, I can't remember if it's actually markhor that they use or not. I'm going to go with markhor because I can't remember, and I've got this strong feeling it is markhor. But basically, they'll shut away the snow leopards whilst they do a clean, and then they'll let the herbivores come through this tunnel into the outside of the snow leopard enclosure. Remember, snow leopards are locked inside at this time, and these animals get to go in there. They get to eat like grass that isn't being eaten because it's a carnivore enclosure. They get to smell that there is a predator about, which is great for their brains, and they get to go through like their own kind of urination and defecation and consumption of the environment before being herded back through into their own enclosure, at which point they're locked safely in their own enclosure, and the snow leopards are
enrichment,
and then they get that same brain activity of oh, there's been prey here.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And I'd even take it a little step further. I think, and I know this rubs people the wrong way, but I think zoos should be two things. I think zoos should be positioning prey species to be within kind of sensory distance of predators. They should be able to at least smell and hear them, if not see them from the distance.
I would say as long as it doesn't cause undue stress.
Again, they shouldn't be right next to each other, but at least be able to see, like, be able to smell them and hear them. And also, I think that there's a strong argument for breed to cull on certain species of herbivores to feed to their natural predator.
Yeah,
so that's my opinion on negative stimuli.
I think
it sounds really counterintuitive still to try and sing the praises of it.
I don't know whether students are going to be putting those as answers, but
not for horses.
Well, no,
I don't think you'll be feeding them like giraffe to horses or something.
Might be a very hungry horse. But yeah, fantastic question, though.
That is a fantastic question. So she actually follows up with another email. So again, this is Jen Greenhall, one of our Patreon supporters. She says, "Hello, you lovely lot. I was going to message you about the number of cormorants I've seen recently, particularly as I drive up the M66. This is sounding familiar with something we've spoken about already, in Lancashire, Manchester area. But I didn't. I seem to message you about everything, I think, that I encounter natural history-wise. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But you mentioned it on the show this week. So they are coming more inland. We have always seen the odd one, but there seems to be many more these days. I wanted to also share for the Musterlid show that we were once driving up the M66 again, and a weasel bounced across both carriageways in front of us. Brave weasel.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe the speed and the fact it made it across the other side. Finally heard my first curlew this morning and saw my first one on my drive into work today.
Nice.
I see it as the benefits of the M6 being shut and SatNav taking me on a magical mystery tour to get to work.
There you go. There's always positives to that. The M6 is a hell of a road.
Yeah, it's
just hell.
So I wanted to get through both of those emails just because Jen is a Patreon supporter who supports us, has been one of our long-term listening ones, and her emails have been waiting a long time. They've been waiting a week, one of them a week, the other one a couple of weeks. But there is one more email that I wanted to get through just because he's kind of following up on another email that he sent in. So this comes to us from Big Pumba, from Chris Ackerson. Hello, gentlemen. I was wondering how you would rate dinosaur-related TV shows.
Ooh.
I excluded kids shows and documentaries.
Oh.
That leaves a remarkably small crop. I created a list of shows: Primeval on BBC, Terra Nova on Fox, The Lost World, Conan Doyle, TNT and Warner Brothers, Land of the Lost, NBC, Dinotopia, ABC, and Primal, Adult Swing, and Dinosaurs, the American sitcom. I have to say, personally, there are many things lacking. However, how would you rate their accuracy? How would you rate the show's ability to teach? How would you rate the show's ability to inspire love of dinosaurs and natural history? How would you rate the show's overall quality? Are there any shows I've missed off my list? P.S. You can, of course, ignore any email of mine which just does not work, but I'm happy to email with thoughts, articles, questions, and the like.
Have you seen all of those?
No, I've not seen all of those.
So, Primeval.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Primeval, I thought was okay. It was
done animation-wise. It was the same people who did Walking with Dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I never really liked the animation of Walking with Dinosaurs. I know it's criminal. It's criminal to say it, but for me, the premise
was good.
The premise
got a bit silly as it went on.
The problem with Walking with Dinosaurs, which I find bleeds over into Primeval, is that the CGI on that will never live up. I know we're comparing apples to oranges here, but most of the CGI in the original Jurassic Park, certainly in the Lost World, does stand up today. There is some bits that don't.
But
For example,
Dinosaurs was made at the same time, but probably not even close to the
that's
same.
that's why I say it's comparing apples to oranges.
I think
No, I don't think it does at all. No, a lot of the
practical effects as well. The
It's-
puppets.
yes, the puppets are good, but they share something in common with that. And still to this day, this is not heartbreaking. This is a scene that gets me emotionally every time. Is when you see the first brachiosaur in Jurassic Park and it raises up.
Yeah.
I love that scene. However, it has to be said that when you watch it today, I'm going to ruin this because you guys, but there's going to be people out there that haven't noticed this. That Brachiosaurus has no weight.
Yeah. It's a balloon.
Whereas other dinosaurs in the film do. I don't know why that one got why there's an oversight on that one, but other dinosaurs do have weight in that film.
Yeah.
But that one doesn't. And I find that the entirety of Walking with Dinosaurs and Primeval has dinosaurs that have no weight, no realistic weight. And
TV program is
really
never going to
gets
be
me.
the same, but yeah.
No, but I respect it. At the time, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but it just doesn't. It it doesn't stand up. The animation doesn't stand up today. But
All right, well, let's move on to the next one then. Terra Nova. You seen that?
I think I saw bits of it, but it never grabbed me.
So it's got the guy from the bad guy from Avatar is in it.
What's it called?
The military guy.
Yeah.
But he's I quite like him.
He's a very
in that
cool
anyway.
dude. Yeah.
But he's a good guy in this. But he's like a tough military general. Essentially, the premise, if I can remember, is Earth in the future. Everything's ruined, but they discover time travel to the Jurassic and basically send people back there, and the main cast are back there surviving. And there was supposed to be like a second season of it, and it just never happened because they ended the whole thing on like this weird cliffhanger with like a time portal where everything had just been thrown through. The dinosaurs in that were all not real dinosaurs. There's like a brachiosaur or something that you see in it. So accuracy-wise, it's very low. But I liked the creativity of it because they built models of the animals which they used to make decent-sized animatronic ones. But everything was, because it was a TV series, it was quite dark and everything was hidden, so it didn't show as much. But I've got more interest in it now after I think it came up as a thing about how it was made. But they made up these dinosaurs in it that were, I think they were called like howlers or something like that. They were like miniature. No, they were called like slashers, and they were like large raptor-like dinosaurs. And then there was a Carnotaurus, I think, in it as well. Or like a Carnotaurus.
Some of this is familiar. Maybe I saw more of it.
But it was, I thought it was an entertaining show. The Lost World, that was really low budget one, if I remember correctly. That is one where it's based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World.
Yeah.
The best version of that I've seen was done by the BBC, I think. And that was using Walking with Dinosaurs models and everything. But Land of the Lost, the only I'm aware of it, and the only real knowledge I have of it is the film that they made of it, that one with Will Ferrell in it, which the whole thing is quite funny. But the TV series, I believe, is from like the 70s or 80s.
So my brain is getting a bit confused now. I think what I'm thinking of is a movie. I watched it with my dad. It's quite an old one. I think it might have been. I can't remember if it was in color or if it was in black and white, but I used to love it as a kid. They're in a submarine and they go down and they go through this cave.
Oh,
and they come up
that
in
is
the
an
dinosaur
old.
world.
That is an old film from like the
Sure it
70s.
was called Lost World.
There's so many that are probably called that. Yeah, I know which one you mean because I've also seen the same thing.
I think there was an iguana that was being used as a.
Yes, it's that classic sort of stick a fin on an alligator.
Yeah.
Dinotopia. See that pales in comparison to the books, which I, as a child, inhaled those books. I had all the big proper ones, and then the novels as well. So I didn't like that one because I felt that it didn't do the franchise justice at all, really. And it felt a bit like they took the name. It was a bit like World War Z. You know, if you've read the book World War Z and seen the film, they just have the same name. That's literally all they have in common. Primal on Adult Swim. That's a really good cartoon that was done by the same people who did Samurai Jack.
Yeah,
it's really good standalone series. Totally inaccurate. There's like zombie dinosaurs in one episode.
Oh yeah.
And he's got a pet T-Rex and it's a caveman. So
right,
inaccuracy out the window, but still an incredibly cool bit of animation. I really enjoyed it.
definitely haven't seen that.
Oh, it's good. And I think the best one of the bunch, actually, the one that still sticks in my brain, is dinosaurs.
Mama, not the mama.
It was basically The Simpsons, but
it was
dinosaurs.
Yeah. That's my favourite one on this list.
Yeah, it has, I would say, one of the darkest endings of any family-based sitcom, where basically they all go extinct.
Well,
no, it's just like they're talking about climate change and everything. They talk about things like climate change, all these sort of things, which are they were talking about it then, and like they always say, The Simpsons did it first. I kind of think dinosaurs did it first in some ways, but also the technical aspect of those suits themselves is just brilliant. So
I really liked the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
really, really liked.
They weren't accurate in any way, shape, or form.
No,
but what's not to like? It's a sitcom with dinosaurs. So yeah, that's I think a really good question there.
Yeah.
We could definitely do a ranking of our favorite dinosaur TV programs in the future. I think.
Extra content.
Yeah. So those are some fantastic emails there and questions. So like I say, you can get in contact with us on our email address, which is thenathistorykcupboard@gmail.com, or you can do it on our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or on our YouTube page as well. But that brings us nicely to our Patreon segment. So, Aaron, let's tell everyone about our Patreons.
Every week, we like to give a little love back by shouting out the names of our wonderful Patreon supporters.
That's right. These are the cupboard dwellers who are kind enough to support us through a monetary contribution, for which we are eternally grateful and grateful beyond words.
And those people are, of course, Fogtober, Jen Greenhall, Connie P, Chelsea McKee, Nick to Nick,
Owen Cox,
and Matt Geddy.
Guys, your financial contributions are actively helping us out here in the Natural History Cupboard in a myriad of ways, including developing our new studio, planning excursions and being able to go out and film on location, considering technical upgrades, and actually making the jump from a solely audio-based podcast to the now growing YouTube channel. And we really can't thank you enough for that.
Now, we appreciate all of our cupboard dwellers and the support you offer us through listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. But if you feel we've earned it and you're considering joining our Patreon, there are two options through which you can do so.
That's the Nature Nerds and the Animal Ambassador tiers, which you can find on the Patreon website or links through our social media as well, and each one having different benefits for you to enjoy.
And now back to Gareth and Aaron in the studio.
So a massive thank you to our Patreons there. We couldn't do things without your support. So that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode. So
it certainly does.
Massive thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's been bearable. And a massive thank you to you at home. And we'll see you next time here in the Natural History Cupboard. Bye.
Promise the news next week won't be so grisly.
Oh.
Bye. So, Gareth,
Mm-hmm.
the terrible joke of the week.
Go on.
What do you call bears without ears?
Dunno.
Bees.
Oh dear.
There were others that were just as bad.